Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Sabrina Daly.
And I am Isani Kesano. Good morning.
And it's
Morning.
a lovely Monday morning, Isani.
Yes,
Good
indeed.
morning to you. How
morning.
goes the weekend? How are you doing today?
Man, I'm good. I'm good. I can't complain.
Yeah.
The weekend was eventful.
Yeah,
I'll say
I
that
mean,
much.
I think across the board, we saw a lot of activities happening over the weekend. We had a boxing match, we had basketball. So I think it was eventful for many of us. And aside from that, we had pretty good weather, and we still have pretty good weather today.
Yeah.
I took the drive this morning to work, and I just enjoyed the sun rising, and the clouds were out. So to me, it felt like it's going to be a cool day. I don't know. We'll find out more from the Met Service, but nonetheless, I had a great weekend and a great morning as well.
Perfect. Brilliant.
All right, so moving into topics that are buzzing. Of course, Isani, you'd know that one of the topics that is still buzzing and was buzzing over the weekend was the official finding of the submersible, or not really the finding, but the final conclusion of what took place with the submersible and the 5 visitors that tried to experience the viewing of the Titanic.
Yeah, there's been a lot that has been said with respect of this incident. I'll reserve, most of my opinions and my questions for our first segment. But yes, there were, additional details that were shared over the course of the weekend. I think, for me, one of the most interesting bits about this whole thing was the interview given by James Cameron with respect of this entire voyage that was taken by Ocean Gate to the depths of the North Atlantic. He has been to the Titanic wreck site whopping 33 times, and he has been involved with the deep submergence community for all these many years in terms of deep dives, in terms of building submersible vehicles and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I'll reserve most of that for the subsequent segment.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have a deeper conversation.
I think what's buzzing at this point is the passing of Canon Leroy Flowers over the weekend. We learned of this sad news yesterday. And for those who may not know, Canon Leroy Flowers has been instrumental in the Anglican Church in Belize City. I'll describe him as the pastor in residence at St. Mary's. And there he is. A good friend of Channel 5, actually. He's been, with us for a number of years in terms of giving us advice and guidance on certain matters that has to do with religion. And of course, he at one point was prominent in the Council of Churches. And so we want to be able to extend our deepest sympathies and our sincere condolences to the family of Canon Leroy Flowers over there on North Front Street. To my good friend Thomas Flowers, Father Church, deep condolences goes out to you and your family.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't even have to be a part of the Anglican, denomination to respect these leaders in our community. Aside from being a religious leader, I'm certain that he was a leader in his own right. So we too indeed share our condolences to the family and as well as the friends. But yes, moving on to other things that were buzzing, Isani. I mean, like I mentioned, we did see sporting activities take place. We know that Tiger Sharks went head-to-head with the Hurricanes, and if I'm not mistaken, Tiger Sharks came out victorious. I was told it was a great game to watch. It was held at the Civic Center in Belize City yesterday, 3:30 in the afternoon, and of course it brought out a lot of families and, you know, real loyal fans. I don't know if you were interested in that particular game.
No, I didn't have a chance to catch it, but in terms of following this series, the finals between the Hurricanes and the Tiger Sharks, I know that avid fans, not only of basketball, but of these respective teams, have been very, very, you know, passionate about their teams and how they stack up in this last or final leg of the competition. You would know that Tiger Sharks got off to sort of a rocky start at the beginning of the season, but managed to, you know, get themselves together and keep themselves together, build this momentum that brings them up to this point. If I'm not mistaken, they're tied at 1 apiece for the best of 5, so there are, in theory, 3 more games remaining to decide who emerges as the champion for this season. And what I find interesting, for me personally, is that many of us are used to games in Belize City on Friday, and on both occasions, because the city center has been in use. I mean, it's that time of year.
Yeah.
The city center has been in use, so the first game was on a Thursday night, and then the second game was on Sunday afternoon. Nonetheless, it drew the attendance that, you know, like as I mentioned earlier, in terms of fans of the game, the sport, sorry, and fans of the respective teams, it drew the attendance that was necessary.
Have you watched any of the games at the Civic Center so far since the season began?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Which was the team that you were rooting for, or are you not inclined to share?
I've always said that I don't have teams per se, not in any sport. I just, you know, if there's something that I want to see, perhaps if I'm a fan of a particular player, then, you know, that's how I inform my decision to attend or watch a game or what have you. But yes, I've been there, and the sheer energy from fans of basketball, at least here in Belize City, it's amazing to watch.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to move things over to our Eye on the News. And of course, Isani, you can take that away.
On Friday evening, just before we left, a release was shared with us, a letter that was shared with us on Friday had to do with the formal response from the Royal Caribbean Group to the leader of the opposition regarding the letter that he had initially sent to CEO Jason Liberty a few weeks ago. Now, this response on behalf of the CEO was written by Joshua Carroll. He is a senior VP in the Royal Caribbean Group. And while he set out to allay certain concerns that were raised by the leader of the opposition, he also made it clear that extensive work has been done on RCG's part to look at or examine the lay of the land where cruise development is concerned. And this is speaking directly to Port Coral, to Waterloo, and Portico. So you're looking at Stake Bank, you're looking at the Port of Belize, and you're also looking at Port of Magical. And he made it a point to say that of the 3, Royal Caribbean's position is that Port Magical is the most viable in respect of the investment, in respect of the prospect and everything. What is equally interesting is that over the weekend I also got an opportunity to look at a document, a draft document that was presented in February 2021. And this is in respect of a number of projects or proposed projects that the National Environmental Appraisal Committee, NEAC, was reviewing. And among them was that for Port of Magical, Belize. You would recall that part of the, I'd say, blowback perhaps, is that there have been significant concerns raised with respect of the environmental and ecological impact that the Port of Magical, Belize could potentially have on a number of species that are either native to that area of the country or they form their habitat there. And one of those is the West Indian manatee. We've seen ads being aired where, you know, that concern is being raised. And it was raised in the first instance in this particular meeting that was held by NEAC. And it is interesting because, you know, the same concerns that were raised by the environmental community with respect of Stake Bank many years ago and the proposed building of the causeway, where, you know, the issue of manatees was brought up in respect of Swallow Key and Friends for Swallow Key. You would recall the late Chocolate, who was very vocal about his concerns for the preservation of this particular species. And so it's the same concerns being raised at that point in time in 2021 regarding manatees in the area of Northern Lagoon, the Siboon River, that whole area in question.
With Port of Magical.
Yes. And so, you know, suggestions were made that, you know, additional data, additional research has to be done on what the potential impact would have been and so forth. I'm only saying that because, you know, there's a major conversation that's taking place from multiple fronts in respect of cruise development in Belize, you know, and this at some point becomes a recurrent issue or theme, you know, preservation of marine and terrestrial wildlife. So,
what's interesting to know is that Royal Caribbean has seemingly put out its support to Port of Magical because they are almost ahead of the race.
There's a memorandum of understanding that was signed. It's a tripartite MOU between Boskalis, which is the international dredging company. They have done all of this salvage work and they're renowned for that. There's also Royal Caribbean and Portico. And so the support has been lent to Portico, not because it's ahead, it hasn't even gotten off the ground. If you're looking at it from that point of view, then Stake Bank is far ahead in terms of the actual structures that have been built on the island and where they are, if you were to look at a scale of 1 to 10 based on completion or progress, right? But yes, that's where we are at the moment in respect of that particular issue.
All right.
Another thing that we wanted to cover, and I know that we'll get into it later in our newscast, is the fact that the Public Service Union held its AGM over the weekend and it went into rounds of elections for executives on the PSU. All right, so I'll reserve the names and the details and all of that for later in the news. I know that this is a fairly short Eye on the News segment. We're pressed for other matters in our show this morning. Nonetheless, that does it for our Eye on the News segment this morning. Details of these stories and more you will be able to catch live on 5 at 6 p.m. in our evening newscast, or you can catch us streaming on Facebook and YouTube. That does it for the Eye on the News.
All right, thank you, Isani. And we are moving things over into the weather. And as we mentioned this morning, well, I mentioned this morning, I thought that the weather felt really great. So I'm hoping for an official confirmation from the National Meteorological Service. And of course, you know that we always get our daily updates from the Met Service. And we'll have with us online forecaster Derek Redon in just a moment. But let us know, how's the weather wherever you are across the country? We want to know. Let us know in the comments, of course. And yeah, I have to say, Isani, I have been enjoying the cooler temperatures over the weekend. And by cooler, of course, I don't necessarily mean in the lower temperatures, just less than 3 digits. All right, we have with us, as mentioned, forecaster Derek Redon. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. So what can we expect as the general situation today?
Okay, we can expect an increase in moisture today and therefore a moderate increase in showers as well.
All right, and that extends to our 24-hour forecast?
Okay, we can expect sunny skies with cloudy stars today, generally cloudy tonight. A few showers or thunderstorms will affect mostly coastal areas this morning, then spread to most areas this afternoon, and again tonight it will shift to mostly the coast.
All right, so with those showers and moisture, can we expect cooler temperatures?
Slightly cooler than yesterday, 88 along the coast, 94 inland, and 79 up in the mountains.
And the lows?
Okay, lows tonight, 79 along the coast, 73 inland, and 68 up in the mountain Pine Ridge area.
With the moisture and slight rainfall, is there any advisory that you'd like to issue to the public?
At this time, there is none.
Okay. Are you guys looking out and noticing any weather conditions developing in the Atlantic or further out in the Caribbean?
Okay, there is nothing of that is expected to develop within the next 48 hours. Brett dissipated over the weekend and Cindy as well dissipated last night. So nothing immediate.
Do you have an outlook through to midweek?
Okay, we're expecting showers to continue tomorrow and Wednesday. So tomorrow and Wednesday, a bit showery.
All right. Well, it looks like we'll have a pretty wet week. So far, at least. All right. Thank you so much, forecaster Redon. We appreciate the information as always.
You're welcome.
Have a great morning.
Okay, you too.
All right. That was the National Meteorological Service with us on the line, sharing a weather update on what we can expect today through to midweek. And it looks like wet. It looks moist and a little bit cooler than usual, which I'm sure we all welcome.
Certainly.
Very positive news to start the morning, and we're going to move on with some more positivity. And of course, that comes from our eye opener, and it's taken from dailyom.com, and it goes like this. Take the time to reclaim your creativity and watch your life blossom as a result. As children, many of us entertained fantasies or even goals of being an actor, singer, dancer, artist, or musician. In some cases, we received enough encouragement to develop our abilities in those creative arenas, but somewhere along the way, we stopped. This stopping may have been due to circumstances beyond our control or to our own unconscious acts of self-sabotage. Being creative can be scary in a world that seems to value logic over imagination and practicality over dreaming. We can forgive ourselves for shutting down or turning our attention away from our inner artist, but perhaps we can also take steps to reclaim our dreams. The truth is, you are not too old, and if you have time to pick up a pen, you have time to make a doodle. Recognize that the obstacles you find before you have arisen from a place of fear, and that they will wane in power every time you do something creative. Each creative act takes you deeper into a realm of beauty and magic, a realm that you can have every right to return to and reclaim.
This is a great eye-opener, simply because I equate imagination with creativity. For you to be creative, good with your hands in terms of painting and drawing and sculpting and doing all of these other things, or even as a writer, for instance, you have to be able to have a vivid imagination. You have to be able to see things in the mind's eye, and then that natural gift of bringing it to fruition comes to play, right? And so when I read the eye opener and I listen to what it is saying, you're never too old to rekindle that sense of creativity. And I think each of us were born with that very talent. It's just that, as the eye opener says, there's sort of an ebb and flow where that is concerned. Sometimes you're in your full creative peak, and other times it wanes and you just, go with the flow. But as children, that's when we're most creative, right? I could always recall, childhood, where a lot of things that you do comes from a sense of make-believe, what we call play, right? But it draws from certain things that are real, and we just build on it with our imagination. And it doesn't matter if you're 5 years old, it doesn't matter if you're 75 years old. Once you have that in you, it's never too late to return to that feeling. And that's why you have, if I look at writers, for instance, you have some writers who are up there in age, but they still have that creativity that brings about some of the best literary works.
Yeah, I agree. And because we're short for time, I wish I could indulge in the back and forth, but we're just going to move things over to our show preview this morning. And as we teased in our What's Buzzing topic, Isani, I'm really looking forward to our first segment. That's because we'll be joined by David Gallo, who is the Senior Advisor for Strategic Initiatives and Special Project at RMS Titanic, Inc., its premier exhibitions. He will be talking to us about his visit to Titanic and also about the incident that occurred during the course of last week.
Our second segment, since this is a two-part show this morning, will be with Giselle O'Brien. She'll be here to talk to us about the Voice Festival 2023 and the Art of Singing Vocal Workshop and Masterclass Series. So that's what we're going to be doing in our second segment. All
right. Well, we are excited to have these conversations. But of course, we have to take our first break, and when we come back, it's all about the ocean, Titanic, and everything you can think of below the surface of water. Don't go away.
Get ready, babe. We're going on a vacation.
Finally, where are we going?
Don't worry, babe. I have we covered.
Are you sure you know where we're going?
Yes, babe. Oh, right there. See? Babe, the price was too good to be true. Me look much more better in that picture.
When life throws you a curveball, Belize Bank has your back. With our online financing, you can turn any vacation mishap into a dream getaway.
Cheers to Belize Bank for making our dream vacation a reality.
Thanks to you, babes, to turn things around.
No thanks to you, cheapo.
Out.
Experience the future of financing with Belize Bank online, where you can secure funds for anything, from anywhere, at any time, all without stepping foot in a bank. Apply for a loan today and unlock a world of possibilities.
When it comes to cleaning and hygiene, Karcher makes a difference. Available at Benny's. Quality and savings.
Sign up for Smart Share Plan and save big. Whether you're a small entrepreneur starting up your business, a student on a limited budget, or a family trying to save, this is the plan for you. With unlimited SMS, calls, and data, we help you save. Get up to 5 lines for as low as $30 per line monthly, only with Smart. Sign up today at any Smart showroom or sales manager countrywide. So get your business going, share more memories with friends, and be ready for the day with Smart.
And welcome back. We have been joined this morning via Zoom by David Gallo. He's the Senior Advisor for Strategic Initiatives and Special Projects at RMS Titanic. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
Good morning, Asani and Sabrina. How are you?
We're fine, and you?
You're great.
I'm fine, thank you.
So there's this entire global conversation that's taking place in respect of the tragedy that happened out at sea over the past week. And this has to do with Ocean Gate and the Titan voyage to the Titanic wreckage at the bottom of the North Atlantic. You have been someone who has been on this expedition before, correct?
Not with Ocean Gate.
Not with Ocean Gate, but you've descended to the depths of the North Atlantic as well to view the wreck site.
I have been to the bottom of the North Atlantic, but not at Titanic. At Titanic, I've used robots. I was hoping next year I'll go in a submarine to Titanic.
Okay.
Nice. Let's begin by talking about your personal experience to kind of get an idea of what it's like and what the entire feel of this kind of an expedition is.
Sure. So, like any robotic, any submarine expedition, on board the boat, you have people, many people, and in that case, they could dive 4 people at a time, and a pilot, so 5 altogether. So some of you stay on the surface ship. So it's about a day and a half trip from Newfoundland to the Titanic site, about a day and a half. When you get there, you survey it, make sure you're over Titanic. The people get into the submarine. In this case, it was 5 people. They put the nose cone on, bolt it shut, pick you up, and then drop you in the water. And then the submarine's got 4 weights, and the submarine begins to sink. And it sinks. It takes about 2.5 hours to get to the bottom because it's deep, deep water. And you start to go from that lovely color blue, like my shirt, I guess, down through deep blue, then deepest blue, and then for 2 hours completely pitch black. That's the surface. So you can still see blue. And then the deeper you get from there, you start to get into what we call the twilight zone, where you can't really tell what you're seeing out the window. But 2 hours pitch black, and you see all sorts of animals that you can't even dream of. They're so strange, beautiful, twinkling lights and things like that in the dark of the sea. Then after 2 hours, you get to the bottom, and there's Titanic. You drop 2 weights. That makes you nice and neutral. You don't come up or down. And you can spend a few hours at Titanic, moving very slowly. Submarines go very slowly. And then after that time, you drop the other 2 weights, and up you go, 2 hours to the surface. So, and then they pick you up, put you on the surface ship. So that's the routine that you get into. And that's a successful day. In this case, everything happened except somewhere between the surface and the bottom, that submarine imploded, which was horrifying. We've known for years and years, and I've been in this business for about 40 years, and we've always known that someday this is going to happen, that we've been very lucky, and then it did happen, and we were all shocked, and the community was shocked. So it's been, we're still dealing with the I lost my very best friend, P.H. Narzale, one of the pilots of the submarine on that. The owner gone, two young men, our young man and his father gone, businessman, well-known explorer gone. It's just been hard to deal with. Where they are.
In your opinion, in respect of everything that took place prior to this voyage, do you believe the writings may have been on the wall?
Oh, Hisani, I think we all said that submarine's not safe. And maybe not, it's a brand new kind of material. It wasn't titanium, it was carbon fiber. So there, and it was, usually we have 3 people. This had 5 people. Usually it's a sphere that you sit in a capsule. This is a tube. So it was very easy today to say it's not safe. I would question my friend P.H. Narzale, who perished, and he said it's perfectly safe. Now, he's an extremely experienced person, and he wouldn't say that. In fact, his last email that he sent to me the night before, he said, we're just trying to finish some safety tests and then we'll dive. So easy to say, and they didn't do this, they didn't get this certification or that certification, or they didn't do that test or this test, which is that's problematic. But even if you do all those, it doesn't guarantee you're going to have a safe trip to the bottom. So, Leslie, would I get in that sub? No, and it has nothing to do. I don't have to get as far as the safety. I don't like the idea of being in a tube with 4 people. Just maybe when I was younger, a sphere, hopefully next year, yes. But a tube, no.
That's what I was going to ask, David, in terms of safety protocols, and if there were any checks that you have to take when it comes to an expedition like this, in terms of the legality of having a piece of equipment that would go to the depths of the ocean. As you mentioned, your best friend, he was a well-experienced person in this field. But is there anything that he had to get an official approval as to first take on this voyage?
Yeah, Sabrina. So he was not that he was the pilot and a rider, but he didn't work for the company, and he wasn't the owner. So it wouldn't have been him, but Stockton Rush, the owner, would have had to go through all those things. And my understanding is he didn't. But the issue here is when you go someplace like Titanic, it's in international water, so it's pretty much anything goes. It's a crazy place. So there really are no rules there. But I think coming up, this is being looked at very closely, very carefully. And there will be some sort of regulation, I think. I don't know how they'll do it, again, because today, when we first went to Titanic, only a very few groups could go. It's too deep. United States could go, Russia, France, maybe Japan. Today, there are many, many, many billionaires, and if they want to go, they can build their own submarine, get their own ship. Many of them have. And so every year we get more people that can go to Titanic, and I think they will. So it's hard to control something like that. So I'm sure they'll come up with regulations, and guidelines. I just don't know who will follow them.
Yes.
What transpired in the North Atlantic is described as a catastrophic implosion. Now, many of us are used to hearing the term explosion as opposed to implosion, right? Explain for us, to the best of your knowledge, what happened here in terms of the immense pressure surrounding this vessel acting upon it.
Sure, the pressure is absolutely intense. Where Titanic is, it would be about 6,000 pounds per square inch, which doesn't mean much to me, except I know it's a lot of pressure. The ocean is very unforgiving in a way. So if there's the slightest bit of a mistake, that the ocean can take advantage of, it does. And in our own submarine here at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, when the sub dives, after it comes up, the technicians and engineers look at every little piece of it. And before it dives the next day, they look at every little piece of it. Once a year, they take the whole submarine apart and put it back together again. So and so they want to be sure there's no place that the ocean can take advantage. And apparently in this case, they began the dive, and after about an hour and 45 minutes, I believe that the submarine let the surface ship know we have a problem. We're dropping weights and coming back. And that's the last they heard from them. They lost the tracking, and so they couldn't tell where the submarine was, and they couldn't communicate with the submarine. So then we heard that the first thing that we would think about, maybe it got stuck on Titanic. There's a lot of wires and cables, very dangerous place to dive. But then we heard there was this implosion that was recorded by the Navy. So what now starts to make sense, okay, at the same time that they lose communications, the Navy records an implosion. Implosion means it's so you've got basically a tube full of air, or a sphere sometimes full of air. The ocean takes advantage of some weakness, and boom, it just collapses in. And it's what we call hydrostatic. It's not like grabbing it with your hand and squeezing it. It's every direction at the same time. So what ends up happening is that the air inside gets superheated, because you're compressing air. And if you have a balloon and you push it, it gets warm. So that goes in real quick and then out, explosion, implosion, then explosion. And we know sometimes if you have glass or something like that on the sub, it melts it. That's how hot it is. So that's what we believe happened, and we'll know more after the investigation that's going on right now. Now we'll have a good look at it and make sure that it was the hull that exploded. It could have been something else outside the submarine that may have exploded and then made the hull explode. But it's a very quick ending, milliseconds.
David.
So we were worried, of course, about are we going to get to the submarine in time, which would be horrible to spend 4 days running out of air. Either way, it's terrible for the families and loved ones of those people. Horrible, horrible thing.
The concern that many had was indeed, as you mentioned, trying to reach in time to save these persons in this submarine before they would suffocate. With an implosion, would you be able to tell us if they would have felt any pain, or is it something that happened so quickly that there's no pain felt?
It would be extremely quickly. Milliseconds, you wouldn't have any chance to
register pain.
Yeah, understand. Now, there was a debate. I think Jim Cameron, you mentioned, he spoke out and said, well, we all knew in the business that it was an implosion and that the submarine would be directly beneath that spot, should be whatever pieces are left would have fallen straight down. Why go through all this big survey and bring all these ships and make people suffer while we wait, all the anxiety we had that we've got to find them. Are they on the surface? Are they on the bottom? Where are they? And I think that's a bit irresponsible to say that. Jim Cameron is a friend of mine. He's an incredibly bright guy. But it wasn't just Jim that said that. That I said it. I said it on CNN. I said, why are we going through this insanity with the Coast Guard making this armada, I called it. And then I started thinking about it, is that just because the clues add up, we can't hear the submarine, we can't track it, we hear a boom, therefore it must have imploded. I think you have to investigate everything else because strange things happen in the sea. And so until we see it with our own eyes, I think you have to continue looking for the sake of the families and the loved ones of those victims. So, once they found it, everything stopped. But until we saw that eye to eye, I think you had to keep going, had to.
What's the conversation in the wake of this tragedy within the deep submergence community? What are you getting from your colleagues?
Yeah, yes, I think it's going to be ugly. Um, and I know I lose my patience quickly when people say, well, that was really stupid. It was ego. They had, they put their lives on the line. But there's going to be those people. There are going to be people that also will say they got what they deserved. And there will be people that really care about them and people that want to know exactly how it happened. If this was the Navy, for instance, and something like this happened, they would want to know exactly how did this happen, what exactly went wrong, and so they could avoid it. So I think it's going to be really a difficult time ahead with these conversations, and it's already started in a way. The community is, as you can imagine, of explorers, a little bit ego-driven. And so we all are a bit wary of each other. And I just hope we come together in this case and try to get this solved about what happened. How do we do our best to protect it next time so it doesn't happen?
Prior to this expedition, there was an interview, if I'm not mistaken, that was done with CNBC and Stockton Rush, the CEO of Ocean Gate, where, part of it showed that the submersible was being operated by a handheld, by a controller.
Joystick, yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because perhaps some of us would want to think that there would have been, proper, for want of a better explanation, controls for this kind of vehicle.
That's pretty proper. I mean, it really is, I'm sorry to say. When you come right down to it, a submarine has a capsule that you sit in, close the hatch, add weights, it sinks, drop weights, it floats. And in between, you have those tiny little propellers that you drive forward, back, left, right, up, down. And so that joystick or the gamepad works fine. I think the problem is that, and there are people that drive robots that way. People drive, fly very expensive drones with that kind of thing. So, in my mind, it's okay. I don't know what else. You'd have to build something special. It's just not that complicated in my mind. I have to show you something quickly.
Sure.
We talked about this rapid implosion. If there's a problem with the ocean, it takes advantage of you. On every dive, we take a styrofoam cup, a full-size cup of this size, a styrofoam cup, and then we decorate it with Sharpies and say, put this cup went to the Titanic. You put it outside the sub, so it's not protected from the pressure.
Yeah.
And as you go down, the ocean gently will squeeze every little bit of air out of it. It doesn't implode it, it just squeezes it. And at the end of the dive, you end up with that.
Wow.
So that's a full-size cup, and you see this writing on it. But it started out a full-size cup, and it's the same shape. The ocean can be that easy to work with if you understand how it works. Yeah.
Now, David, you study the ocean, and you are a senior advisor for strategic initiative and special projects at RMS Titanic. Can you talk to us about the work that you do there?
Sure. When I was at Woods Hole, I came to Woods Hole right after it was discovered, and I was not at all interested in Titanic. And through most of my career, I'm not interested in Titanic. Today, I'm not a Titanic historian. I'm not a Titanic enthusiast. Mostly what I am is interested in helping people from around the world, young, old, all experience Titanic the way they want to. So I'm very interested in the technology. How do we explore? How do we let other people get that feeling of exploration? The fact that I have this model, it's a Lego model, was a gift to me. So I think people are surprised when I say I'm not a Titanic expert. But what RMS Titanic does is that, well, back in the 80s, a company picked up artifacts. They picked up, you can't do that today, but they picked up 1,000+ artifacts. And this company, it's been sold several times, that company that picked them up. And so this company today, they have exhibits around the world. And in that exhibit, they have all these artifacts from Titanic. And what amazed me, initially we thought that was grave robbing, and this is horrible, and I spoke out against it a lot. And then I finally went to see it, the exhibit, and what I saw was amazing, because I saw young and old, rich and poor, individuals and families would come into that exhibit and come face to face with a piece of Titanic, a piece that went through that, piece that was there that night. And I thought, that was their legitimate experience with the Titanic. And I thought, well, how arrogant that we felt that if you have a cap and gown or a PhD, a very elitist attitude, that you can go to Titanic. But these people, they can read my book, they can watch my movie, but that's about it. Stay away otherwise. And so this company is really dedicated to the legacy of the ship and to telling the story of the passengers that were on board that ship.
What is the lure about this whole thing, considering the fact that there are thousands of vessels that have sunken in oceans across the world, sorry. The seafloor is littered with numerous vessels. What is it about the Titanic in particular that has this lure?
When you find out, Asani, let me know. Because in 1986, I thought, well, this will be over in 1987. And every single year, it seems to be more and more and more and more. If I could wear a jacket that has the most important plastic pollution team, something like that, very important. Everyone should care about it. Anywhere, no one's going to stop me. If it says Titanic, and I have several that do, I get stopped 3, 4, 5 times every time I walk through a grocery store or a shopping mall. And people, again, young, old, rich, poor, want to know, do I have something to do with Titanic? I think it's because there's something there for everybody. And they get caught up in the stories of the people, the rich, the poor, and the poor, everyone together. Their lives were cut short. The arrogance of humans to think that technology would save them from Mother Nature. This incredible ship that was so beautiful, now in just 2 hours plus ends up now on the bottom of the ocean. So, I think it has to do with that. I've asked people, was it Jim Cameron's movie?
Yeah, that's the first thought that came to mind.
Yeah, apparently not. I mean, it's a love story and that helps pull people in. But many, many people, to my surprise, are not, because they knew about it through different books and they've heard about it, but through old movies. So I just don't get it, but I know that it's still growing. And for my interest, I like to use Titanic. So we're going to go back next year. Last time we were there, this company was about 8 to 10 years ago, a long time.
Yeah.
So we'll go back next year and do another expedition and make it so that people will be interested. But I'd like to use that interest to try to say, yes, Titanic, but look at every time we dive to Titanic, we're diving into a totally different planet, one that you don't know about.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the sea, world's greatest mountains, world's widest valleys, underwater rivers, underwater lakes even. Who would think that? And the oceans give us most of the water we drink, food, and then half of the air we breathe. So, we hardly have explored it, and it's really that important. And I like that Titanic lets me to get to those people through their interest in Titanic.
That's something that I actually sparked my interest while searching you, David, because you did a TED Talk where you were talking just exactly about that, the wonders of the ocean. A lot of us have spent a lot of money investing in space and, you know, trying to get on the moon and putting robots on Mars, as you mentioned. But there's a sense of intimidation when it comes to the ocean, when in fact, the entire Earth is covered mostly by water. Can you touch a little bit on that particular topic?
Yeah, it's Sabrina. It's something, you know. I got hooked. I was a shoe salesman, believe it or not, for a long time after, because I was told you can't be a scientist. You don't have the grades and you don't have the brains to do it. And I had ADD. I still do. If you look around my office, you see all these little things to distract me. But I had a lot of curiosity. And the one thing that got me about the ocean was that it was full of surprises. Animals where we didn't think there were animals, animals that do strange things. As I said, underwater waterfalls and all that. So that was one thing. And that's where I was. Although I would hear we have problems with the ocean, the acidity, the plastics, overfishing, and I knew it was important, but I just didn't pay attention to it. And then finally, I started looking at it closely because other people said, you better look at this. And it is very scary.
Yeah,
and I'm
it
not
is.
an alarmist, and I wouldn't say I'm the world's greatest conservationist, but we need to do something different pretty quickly because the oceans, if the ocean, I'll just show you something. If the ocean was this size of a basketball, the planet, size of a basketball, all the water on the planet, including the ocean, would be the size of a ping pong ball. So that big a planet, so even though you say that, well, wait, you said it was mostly water, but yes, covered. But the average depth of the ocean is 2 miles. And when you think about it, an ocean can be 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 miles across. So it's just a very thin, thousands of miles across, 2 miles deep. So there's not a lot of water on the planet. And so it's not something that's too big to fail. So that's something, and I don't know what it's going to take for people. It's not easy because everyone's entrenched in their own ideas. A lot of people are making money. They don't want to change what they're doing. So, it's getting ugly for our generation already. It'll be a lot uglier for the next generations. And I don't know what it's going to be like 2 generations. In a way, it's Titanic all over again. Just too much belief that we can always overpower nature. That's not true.
What are your thoughts on what Stockton Rush had mentioned previously, where regulations hinder innovation? We're looking at something where perhaps the use of carbon fiber is perhaps novel to this kind of exploratory work. What are your thoughts on that particular phrase or that expression that he used?
Yeah, I had the fortune of working hand in hand with many of the best and brightest engineers and scientists. I mean, and saw them creating things, and through the TED conference and other things like that, X Prize, where the human beings or individuals, private companies sent rockets to space, people to space. And yes, I think that at some point you have to cross the line of what's safe and take a risk. I think the question is, in this case, Stockton went too far, but I don't know. I guess so. It had 2 straight years of not of successful dives. Problems, sure, but I've always seen problems with new technology. It's a tough one. I mean, it's going to take some soul searching, but I don't know how you innovate if you just say, okay, I've got to stay. And you mentioned in your eye-opener about creativity. Well, if you're bounded your creativity that I can think about this far, but I got to stop because that's a regulation tells me stop. You can't go over there. I think you're really taking away the real spirit of creativity. So it's a tough one, though. I wouldn't want my children, I wouldn't want anyone's children going a submarine like that. But I don't know what the other answer is, tough. Every day, and this is insensitive in a way, but if you look at how many people perish every day, many in accidents, in automobiles, we trust seatbelts and things like that, yet many, many people die every day. So I think it's in the human nature not to pay too much attention to regulation and whether you're exploring or not. And we'll see. I have a stack. Oh, it's right here. Here's from the International Committee to Save Titanic, because it's so many. It's a cultural resource full of also jewelry and chandeliers and thousands of things like that. So how do we protect it? It's in the middle of nowhere. Well, we have these international agreements. There they are.
Wow.
Yeah, worth nothing because there's no way that you can protect Titanic with paper.
Yeah.
No, so you could go to Titanic, I could, you could, anybody could, with a few $100,000, and they would never know you were there. So that's a great image right there, and that's actually a painting by Ken Marshall, and I had that over my desk for many, many years because we couldn't make that with real cameras, and yet it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful image.
Yeah.
The bow, the famous bow, king of the world, and you see an anchor there sitting on the bow. It doesn't look quite like that. The railings are very fragile. Now that is done with laser recently, so that's a real image done with laser beams, and that's the bow. That anchor, by the way, is 70 feet above the bottom of the ship, the keel.
Wow.
So that's how deep the bow is buried into the sediments. You know what? When you go to Titanic, the great thing about robots is that any time of day, I could go to the control room, and we would be exploring Titanic, and you get a much, much better view than you would from the submarine, and it's much more comfortable than, and it's all day and night and week, and there are times when you're on the boat deck, or at the bow, or on the bridge where you know how much went on there. The boat deck to me is painful because that's the place where loved ones say goodbye to one another, where people knew if they were going to live or die. So much happened there that when we see that with the robots and you feel like you're there, the whole control room goes quiet.
Wow.
Sometimes off the ship in the sediments, you find personal remains, artifacts like a doll or something like that. Same thing, or a cup. You want to know, I wonder who was holding that last. I should say, I've been called a grave robber and a treasure hunter. I mean, aside from the Legos, that's about it. We have never found any human remains at Titanic, never. And the minute we do, it's going to change things. Nevertheless, we treat Titanic. We don't dig in the sediment. We don't touch the sediment. We don't poke around any place. We treat it like a gravesite. So we're not there, although some people would like to make it think that we are grabbing things. With this company, I've never once in 10 years heard them talk about just picking up stuff without some incredibly important reason to pick it up.
Now,
you mentioned earlier that you were initially opposed to the idea of removing artifacts from there, and you likened it to grave robbing or what have you.
Yeah.
What changed your fundamental mindset in terms of the way you thought about it, and of course the way you're going about it this time around?
I am sure it was the being in that exhibit center, because we demonized those people. And I was right out in front calling them those things: grave robbers, treasure hunters, unsensitive, taking the jewelry from these bodies that had to be there. I was part of the elitist attitude that I had a PhD and I was working at Woods Hole and we'll make all the rules. And I hate that anyway, because that's not where I came from. I'm not an academic thoroughbred. And then I think going to that exhibit and sitting there and watching those people on their own journey. When you watch a documentary, you have to go where the director and producer take you. With a book, you go where the author takes you. When you're there looking at these different artifacts, you do yourself, back to your eye opener, you start to be able to dream, create in your own mind your own story. And so I found that that's what changed it for me, and the whole world wanted more. And I still, like I said, I still don't get it, but it's growing. And I just think that Titanic belongs to everybody.
Now, you have interests of going yourself next year. Can you talk to us about what made you decide to make that decision and what you're hoping to discover?
Yeah, the last expedition in 2012, I think it was, 11-12, we went to Titanic and made an incredible map of Titanic. PH, who perished, was a co-expedition leader, and another guy, Sylvain Posco, the three of us, put that program together, and was very successful. And then we went to look for Air France, a plane that crashed in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And the lessons we learned from Titanic, we used to find that missing aircraft when people said, "Oh, you'll never find it." Well, I thought, what a perfect time this is just to say goodbye. My favorite place on earth is right outside in my garden. And I just loved it. I'm Italian by ancestry. A lot of my childhood was spent with my grandparents in their garden. So I retired, and that little by little, people started chipping away at me about, we should do this and we should do that. And so there's a lot left to do with Titanic. We haven't really been inside much at all. Jim Cameron went briefly some years ago. But, everything we do has to be approved by a federal court. It's not like we say, okay, let's go inside. No, you've got to justify it. And I think that's good. So we can make the case, we'll go inside and start to look room by room inside Titanic. I want to do some things for education and kids. I'm not sure what yet, but I want to... I think we say, okay, we'll do all this. That's the science, that's the exploration, and let's give some of this stuff to teachers for education. I think the teachers need to be part of the team, because really they are part of the team. It's an arc that includes, at one end you're at the bottom of the sea, but you're also at the hearts, with the hearts of these and minds of these children. So that's one thing, and then I haven't dove to Titanic. I don't know that it means that much to me, but it's people say, well, just use robots. You don't need submarines. Well, then you should never go to a sporting event ever. Why? If you can watch it on TV.
Yeah.
You should never go to a live concert. Why? You can watch it on TV. Much more comfortable to sit at home. You don't get the energy by being there in person. And that's with Titanic. When you go there, it's that individual and what it does to that individual spirit. And so I want to see what that's like.
You're looking at a vessel that, while it was afloat, was 8 to 10 stories high, correct? And then now it's sunk into the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. You go down to that depth and you're still, it's just the way I'm seeing it in my mind, you're still awed by the sheer magnitude of this vessel, correct?
Yeah, Sonny, and Sabrina, both of you, you think so much. I think this is so much the way you do. I'm surprised by this. You're asking questions that are perfect questions, and I can't remember ever being asked those kinds of questions. But that's exactly right. I mean, even now I sit here knowing that deep beneath the Atlantic in the darkness, people visit it maybe once a year. That's it, for a couple of weeks, and then no one will visit it. Is that immense ship? All those staterooms, all the elegance. that was on that board that ship is still there, in the darkness of the deep sea. It's pretty. It does get to you emotionally. So, oddly enough, my neighbor right through that wall and 100 meters over, his grandfather died on the Titanic, and I had no idea for 20 years that was the case. But we talk about that quite a bit about what's it mean now to have this ship sitting on the bottom. You said before about ships sinking. Every single year, about 14 ships average the size of Titanic sink. 14 ships. And
that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. The ocean floor, it doesn't matter if you're looking at the Pacific, if you're looking at the Atlantic, wherever, the ocean floors are littered with sunken vessels. But there's something, thousands of sunken vessels, but there's something about this story that draws, global attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the greatest, the most lives lost. It's not the biggest ship. It's not even that old. 1900 some odd years, 1912, it sank.
Yeah.
So why? I don't have, as I said, I don't have an answer.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on what President Obama mentioned recently in respect of this tragedy versus the ship that sunk near Greece with over 700 persons who perished in that incident? But global attention was focused primarily on the Titan versus that particular vessel with these people who are seeking refuge in another country.
I hated it. I mean, I agree with Obama completely. And it's so human, because to me, every life is precious. Every life is precious. And although I love my friend, PH, and will miss him terribly, is his life any different from the lives of those people on the ship? So, except for my own personal relationship, and I know him, it makes it different. But yeah, I was stunned and wanted to bring it up many, many times, but no one wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
But I just don't, again, it's such a human thing, and that I guess it's because people felt there's no real story there, and the media, the news media, wants stories, headlines, and that was Titanic at the time.
David, as we wrap things up, I go back to what you are most passionate about, and that is informing the public about the importance of the ocean. The things that are still not discovered in the ocean itself. Is there anything that you seek to achieve in your career as someone that is so interested in life below water?
It makes me laugh that, I'm 70 years old now. So I'm the old walrus. And I wasn't always, I was the young walrus. And I used to stay out of the way of the old ones because they would babble on and on forever. And I know when my teammates are just saying, Grandpa, you sit over there and everything will be okay. Well, that's not satisfying. And, I've got here something I want to look into. And we're looking, well, I have two things going on. The next trip to Titanic, which will be fascinating. And I think, and then the other one is the myth of Atlantis. And it's not the underwater city part. It's about the ancient world in the Mediterranean, about what was going on there. It's fascinating.
Yes.
Absolutely fascinating. So those two things will drive me forward for a while, and I'll babble. I'm very happy just sitting in my garden. So.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a sense of intimidation when it comes to the ocean? Because I'm here thinking to myself about how heavily invested the public and scientists are when it comes to astronomy. But when we're talking the ocean and everything that is still not discovered in the ocean, it's almost like we're afraid to really indulge in that part of the world.
Yeah, I think that's partly true, but that bothered me a lot because it's so lopsided. I think it was one space shuttle launch when they were doing space shuttle was the same cost as all research for in the oceans. And when I thought about it, if you look at the people involved in building that, going back to this, follow the money, follow the money. All those companies that are building rockets for NASA are the same defense contractors, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed, et cetera, Boeing. In the oceans, we don't have that.
Yeah, we don't.
So they're getting an extra $20 billion a year, probably a lot more now. So in the ocean, we're just scraping by, trying to make people believe that we better pay attention to this. And again, I'm not an alarmist, but you cannot deny when you see that the oceans are becoming more acidic, when you see that the fish. I just read a report about sharks dying. It's amazing how many sharks have died over time because of pollution and overfishing. The plastic issue is crazy.
Yeah.
Everywhere. It's not just the bottles that you can pick up, it's the chemicals inside plastic, which is not so easy to pick up. So, I think part of the problem is there's no glory in it. I don't think anyone, why do I want to get involved? It's, again, I think it comes back to a money thing.
Yeah.
David, I have one final question from my end, because I've long been fascinated with this program on Nat Geo, Drain the Oceans. I'm not sure if they have an episode that speaks to the sinking of the Titanic and what the story would be once all the water in the Atlantic is removed to show this vessel. Do you follow that? Do you follow Drain the Oceans as someone who is in love and passionate about oceans?
I'm one of the stars.
There we go. There we go.
Maybe you mistake me for Bradley Cooper. Maybe that's it. Why are you laughing?
Talk to us a bit about that.
No, I think you're again right on the money. I just don't think it has they're going to go for ratings. And believe me, when I deal with the media, I was a CNN analyst for many for a couple of years, and lots of documentaries. But you try to say, hey, this is the most important thing. It's not that. It's, they're not interested. It's whatever can get most people talking.
What sells, yeah. All right. Well, David, do you have any final words? This was such an insightful conversation, and I'm sure we could go on and on just from equal interest on both of our parts. But is there any final words that you'd like to share with us here in Belize?
Yeah, and again, it's going to come back to your eye opener. It's just have hope. I mean, when we were looking for the missing Titan, I was telling people, pray.
Yeah.
Can't hurt. Have hope. Those are powerful things, and in our lives, miracles do happen. And I'm not trying to be religious about it, but just don't be so calculated that. If that's what bothered me about what Jim Cameron said, was that, well, it's obvious to everybody. Well, not if you were in that sub or if you're the loved ones of one of those people. You got to keep looking. So I think that's my message: is be optimistic, because we can turn this thing around, these environmental issues around, and I think that's important to me. It's not a lost cause at all. And if you're like I was, if you feel bad about yourself because you don't have the brains to do something, it's the old saying, don't let that stop you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate this conversation, for you also taking your time to join us wherever you are in the United States, and we look forward to having more conversations like this with experts like yourself.
I really, really enjoyed this, and believe me, I have never said that before.
All right.
I really did.
All right. Thank you so much, David. We're going to take a break. And
bye, Asani.
Take care.
When we come back, it's all about the Art of Singing workshop. Don't go away.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Come on!
When hungry or craving, when laughter or tears, enjoy the best snacking or flavors are here. Asadas, bocadas, chiladas, doradas, delicious for snacking, done right and done here.
Done right, done here.
My name is Wilmer De La Rosa from Santa Elena Town. I am currently a student at Cayo, set for employment training. Enrolled in the electrical installation program. In late July 2021, I got a confirmation that I was a successful applicant and would be granted a scholarship from Social Security Board. It was one of the proudest moments for me. I felt very excited to start this new path in my life. So far on my journey as a Social Security Board scholar, my vocational technical scholarship has assisted me in achieving my life goals in so many ways. For one, it has renewed sense of purpose, another chance at professional development, and a start at a new career. This opportunity has paved the way for me to excel in life as an individual and as a member of society. Great things are coming after I graduate from SET. I can promise you that. Applying for a vocational technical scholarship through the Social Security Board is simple and easy. I would advise young people in need to apply. It is possible to create a fulfilling and fruitful life with a Social Security scholarship. Believe in yourself and your abilities and skills. I always say, the key is to always keep an open mind and let your determination be your motivation.
Delisa's favorite Tuesday night entertainment is back. KTV The Remix Season 5 kicks off with the audition show on Tuesday, June 27th at 8 p.m. Tune in to see who will be your next favorite contestant. Then join us on Tuesday, July 4th at 8 p.m. when KTV The Remix goes live from the Bliss Center for the Performing Arts. Come on out and win fabulous prizes and get a chance to compete in our KTV challenges. KTV The Remix Season 5. It's gonna be fun, entertaining, and it's only on 5. Are you looking for low-cost television advertising? Have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you to save valuable time and money. Call us today at 280-0013 or visit us at our offices on Coney Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marian Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 police teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 believes on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind-the-scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
What's wrong? It's him. He hit me again. Oh my gosh. This time it was worse. He slammed my face in the wall and threatened to kill me. If you or someone you know is experiencing family violence, call 0800-WAY-OUT. Or you can text or WhatsApp to 672-9628.
Welcome back, and we are having our second conversation for the morning, and this time it's all about the art of singing workshop, but also a guitar workshop as well. We are joined by Giselle O'Brien, and she is the owner of O'Brien's Music Studio, and also Ciara Marshall, and she is here with her very own guitar to, I guess, play us something, I'm hoping, right? All right, good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
So let's get things started with both of the workshops that are taking place. I assume it's for the summertime, right?
Yes.
All right, let's talk about it.
So the first workshop that we have, it's called the Voice Festival, The Art of Singing. We've done a few short courses for Belizeans on singing, but it's usually based in Belize City. For this one, we're trying to branch out to all the, well, as much districts as we can afford. So we're having master classes in Santa Elena, Belmopan, Dangriga, Corozal, and Orange Walk, as well as a 4-day segment in the city.
Now, I have to stop you right there, because when you say master class, what does that mean?
Basically, it's an all-day workshop. We start with looking at vocal anatomy and what makes up the singing mechanism. And then in the afternoon, we give all our singers an opportunity to work one-on-one with our teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And you also have a guitar workshop as well.
A guitar camp. It's a 2-week camp from July 24th to August 4th. And we are taking kids from the age of 6 to 17. Yeah. So we have our beginners, which are, you know, the ones that have never played before. And then we have our intermediates, which Sarah would be a part of. And they get to learn a little bit more, things like improvisation, writing their own music, and of course a chance to join our Silver Strings Guitar Ensemble.
Awesome. Now, Giselle, you are no stranger to Channel 5. You're a part of the Channel 5 family almost, and we especially see you in action during KTV seasons, where you are one of our, or the official vocal coach that we have with us during KTV. Let's talk about the public's interest in singing. Do you find a lot of people interested in really refining their skill of singing?
There are always people who want to learn more. That's the thing about Belize. We have so much natural talent and we have so many people that are creative and artistic. I think the issue is that sometimes they don't know where to go to kind of work on whatever art they want to work on. So it is our responsibility as music teachers to kind of get out there and try to reach as many people as possible. You will not believe how many talented people we meet on the street. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Let's go back a bit, Giselle, and talk about your passion for music and what brought you to where you are in terms of being able to share your knowledge and your passion with others who are equally interested in music.
Well, you know, I grew up in Black Manetti, and I didn't have the opportunity to study music as a child. I used to love watching Rajani Pariat perform, and I used to tell my mom every KTV season, I want to go to Belize City and sing, and I actually did on Kids KTV the very first year. I lost. But when I went abroad to study and I begged my teachers to do voice instead of guitar, they told me you have a lot of damage and you know you have a lot of bad habits with your singing. And it's bad habits that a lot of Belizeans have because that's the way we see people perform, and so we mimic it. And so because of my personal journey, I decided to take a few courses, not just in voice training, but also in vocal health and reparation, the biology of the voice and the anatomy of the voice. And I'm currently doing the Alexander technique, which is an unlearning of bad habits study. Yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting. And I love that you mentioned that, I mean, aside from vocal training, which applies to singing, it can also be used for speech as well.
Yes, it's very applicable to public speaking and to just any kind of speaking. A lot of the teachers that I work with, they tend to have vocal, not damage per se, but just they're tired, they're vocally tired. And so some of these exercises that we do can be applied to lengthen or extend the life of your voice.
Now, we are in the business of talking, Giselle, so maybe we could use some of that exercise ourselves. Would you like to
of course.
Give us an idea of what we should be doing, or should we be doing that?
Yeah. So one of the things that I like to encourage my speakers and singers is to start with breathing and then a smaller length of vocalese. So for example, you could start with an audible swoop by breathing in through the mouth like you're sucking in spaghetti. So you would, and then exhale that. Can you try that? Good, and then you would go to your articulators, which are the tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. So you could just say that, the tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips.
The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips.
And then you say it 5 times. The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips.
Sounds like one of those kids' nursery.
Yeah, those are really, really good for just preparing your articulators and getting, you know, a jump start on the speaking mechanism.
Wow, that's interesting. Yes, I feel like that would apply perfectly for me before news time.
Oh yes, definitely.
The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. All right, I'll try to remember that.
I'll keep that in mind every time I do a voicing.
Yes,
that's what I'm
too.
going to do.
Yes.
Here's a lesson.
Yes.
So you're supposed to say that 5 times.
5 times. You can say, you know, she sells seashells at the seashores if you have trouble with your S's.
Twister.
Yeah. Any tongue twister really is a good warm-up exercise. And of course, you can do what we call vocalises. So like ma, ma, ma.
What does that do?
So we have a way that we position the mouth for speaking and singing to allow for the most sound with the least amount of effort.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that the tongue is under, it's behind the teeth, the lower teeth, and lowered in the mouth. And you want to make sure that your soft palate is raised. So if you take your tongue and you press it on the top or the roof of your mouth, you have a hard palate, and behind that a soft palate. When the soft palate is raised, you have more space in the mouth for air to move, and so you have a clearer sound.
Wow.
Ma.
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 Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Science, science, science.
Yeah, so that ma helps the soft palate to raise and the tongue to lower.
All right, well, let's talk about the guitar camp. And we have with us here a very special young lady that has 4 years, you know, of training under her belt. Isani, you see how tiny she is, and she's 4 years ahead of us already.
I am amazed at how she personalizes her guitar with all those stickers.
Oh, yes.
She
Good
has
stuff.
on her guitar, I believe in unicorns. Well, let's talk about your training that you have had with Miss Giselle, I believe. Yes.
So Sierra started in 2019, and we had to do our lessons online during the pandemic, which was hard, I think.
Is it harder to learn online than in person?
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you choose guitar? Was it because you knew people that played guitar, or were you just drawn to that instrument? Yes.
Is there something you want to play for us?
Okay.
Go right ahead.
All right, so she will be getting her music sheet, and we're going to bring that over now to have her play something for us. All right.
Do you want me to set it up for you?
All right.
All right.
Okay.
I think her microphone is stuck to the string. Can we move the microphone?
Okay.
Sure.
You could just hold it close just so we can hear it still. Yeah. Continue.
You could continue playing.
You can continue. Beautiful.
All right, so what's the name of that piece, and what makes you enjoy playing that?
Manual in G and E easy.
Why do you like the guitar? You just like it? Was it hard to learn how to play? What was the hardest part?
Alternating my fingers.
Okay. So moving it around the shaft. I remember, so I'll tell you this. I tried learning how to play the guitar probably around your same age. And I remember that you have to really press really hard. And I didn't like that. Was that something that you also found challenging? Do you know a lot of young people your age that play instruments? Really? Okay. Is there any other instrument that you'd like to learn to play?
Piano.
Piano.
Okay, very nice. Okay, all right, so let's talk about the music camp and how they can be a part of it this summer.
So our music camp, like I mentioned, it happens from July 24th to August 4th. And you can register on our Facebook page at O'Brien's Music Studio, or you can register through the Palotti School of Music, who is one of our partners.
Oh, excellent. And the same goes for the singing?
Yes, the same goes for the singing. If you go to our page, all our information is there. And on July 14th, we're going to end our entire vocal workshop with a grand concert at the Bliss, featuring Miss Natalia Dopwell, who is our masterclass teacher and singer extraordinaire.
Now, Giselle, I go back to your passion on your own in music and singing specifically. As I mentioned, you're no stranger to Channel 5, especially in the KTV area. What drew you to singing or to music in general?
Girl, you know, when I was a kid, I used to feel like I didn't have a lot in common with other kids my age. And I used to just sing all the time, like, you know, in the bath, behind the house, in class, being told to be quiet by my teacher. It was just something that, that was just part of my life, you know. The decision to actually study it was a hard one because I was on that, you know, be a doctor, be a lawyer track. And I kind of quit school to go do music, and I made my parents a little bit angry at that point. But it's definitely a decision that I don't regret making. Music is a way to reach people in a different way, in a creative way, and it also allows people to express themselves when they feel like they can't express themselves any other way. So,
you know, I think of learning an instrument and how intimidating it is on its own. But I imagine adults, you know, that were always curious about an instrument. For instance, myself as an adult, I always thought the piano to be very fascinating. Is it easier to learn as a child versus an adult?
No. No. I think that children are naturally curious. But they tend to lose focus faster too.
Okay.
So it really just depends on the person. Some children, they're gonna love it for the beginning and then they get tired of it and you have to find new ways to keep them interested, and some children, they just love it. Adults, on the other hand, tend to know what they want. So if they decide to do music, it's because they know that that's what they want to do. And so you don't need to motivate them as much.
Okay.
Yeah, you just gotta show up and support them.
But there's a lot of practice involved.
Oh yes, definitely. Anything worth doing needs practice.
Yeah.
So you're very, very adept on the technical aspect of music. Is there a particular genre that you're drawn to?
No.
You listen
like
to
them all?
everything?
Yes. Yeah, I will go from classical to rap to Metallica to jazz, like that.
But is there something you're listening to, for instance, either instrumentation or vocalization or what have you, harmonies and so on?
I kind of need to listen to everything. As a teacher, musicality just has so many different facets that you need to be aware of. And I mean, I don't know everything. So I'm always looking to learn from my colleagues, you know.
So I imagine asking you who's your favorite artist, you wouldn't have one.
I have favorite artists at certain points in my life. I would have, like, you know, favorite artists. Like right now, I'm really into Esperanza Spalding. And I like Sia, but I like Sia's earlier music. Yeah, before she was famous. Yeah, and anything bossa nova is good for me.
You know, as you said, Sia, it takes me back to what you mentioned in the start of the conversation about unlearning certain singing techniques, and Sia has this way of kind of like cracking her voice. Is that something that could be harmful to your vocal cords, I guess?
I suppose it depends on the singer. Personally, I find Sia is quite talented and knowledgeable. She knows her voice. And if you listen to like her earlier music, the quality of her voice is very different to what she does now. I cannot say why. I would just say perhaps it's something stylistic that she's found her audience likes, you know, because her voice is very unique. Yeah.
And I mean, the reason why I mentioned this was because you indeed mentioned that a lot of times our favorite artists we try to mimic them, you know, and we might not have that type of texture in our voices, and our vocal cords might not be as trained as theirs is, so we can cause damage to our voice.
Yes.
So what's the line, or how do you know, okay, maybe I shouldn't try to do that if I'm actually interested in pursuing singing?
The first thing you gotta take note of is, how do I feel when I'm singing something? Does it hurt? Do I feel like I'm running out of breath? Is there pain or tension in the neck or in my throat?
Maybe it's just practice though. Maybe I just need to practice and the pain goes away, no?
No. No. I don't think there's anything where you just practice and the pain goes away. If there is pain, that means that something is not working the way that it should work.
Okay.
Also, not every popular singer has proper vocal training. I mean, Rihanna, for example, has gone from not much to like this amazing clean tone over the last few years. I remember when her first few
Would
songs
that be
came out.
arguable? I mean, not from a technical point of view. I wouldn't be able to debate that with you.
I'm not saying that she did not sound good. All I'm saying is, you know, when she had just started out, I mean, back then I loved Rihanna. I would like try to sing like her.
So we start with music from the sun,
Yeah.
right? So we start with On the Replay.
Uh-huh.
Right? So that's the first song that
That's
we
the
all
very
knew,
first song she came
2005.
out with.
And then we're listening to Rihanna today. It's a different voice that we're hearing, correct?
It's a
in terms of
different-
approach?
Yeah, the approach is different. I wouldn't say it's a different voice. Rihanna has this very unique Caribbean vibe. But if you listen back to Upon the Replay, it's not very challenging. And still there are some parts of it where you can kind of hear that there's not as much ease in the voice. And then when you fast forward to now, the song that she did for Black Panther, there's a level of ease in her voice that you can hear that shows that she has grown from Upon the Replay.
But could it be just, or could it be also the growth as well as in maturing? For instance, I've been told that your voice changed when you become a mother as well. When we compare like Beyonce's sound pre-motherhood to how she sounds now, could that be an argument as well?
It would be a factor, yes. But I still stand by the fact that I think she's done some vocal training and she's done work with a teacher, because just from the way she approaches her sound. I mean, I could give you an example where if there is tension in the throat, you can hear it. You can hear like, ah, as opposed to ah, which is a much cleaner sound. And, you know, if you are trained to listen for that tension and you're trained to listen to your singers to see that they are approaching music in a certain way, you can hear the difference.
You can.
Yeah, for sure. But yes, motherhood does change your voice too.
How so?
For better or worse? Or it depends on how you use it.
I feel like I feel like it makes it sound, I don't know if this makes sense, but thicker.
Fuller? More fuller?
Something like that, yes.
You know, the hormones play a very big part in what happens to your voice. When I was pregnant, I couldn't even sing in my 6th and 7th month.
Ooh.
My voice was really, really thin, and I was gasping for breath, partially because, you know, the kid was pushing up against my lungs, so I couldn't breathe as easily. And then after I had him, it took me about 3 or 4 months to kind of get back into it in a healthy way. And then I recently did some vocal training with Jacob Peterson, and it was amazing. Like, he gave me some key points to work on with my voice, and I felt things open up that weren't open before. But there was a richer quality, and I could hit the high notes better.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. It's richer.
Yeah.
You could hear that with Beyonce. Her voice is completely different to me.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot richer. That's the word I was thinking of.
Yeah.
So I mean, for persons, let's take it to KTV. For persons that are, you know, well, we don't know yet who's the singled group. We'll find out during auditions. But for persons that are interested in KTV, maybe you could give them some type of, I guess, idea on why, you know, it's okay, because they will be trained.
You know, I think that KTV is such an interesting experience. There's a level of growth that happens through that process. One, singing is a vulnerable act, And then being part of KTV makes you even more vulnerable because you're in front of an audience.
Yeah.
Right? But just the quality of comments that you get from the judges, that alone I think is worth it, because you're getting comments from people that have been in the industry and that know what they're talking about. And you know, last year I volunteered to do the vocal training because I felt that the public was a little bit mean, and we don't need that. You know, we are a nation full of creativity. We don't need the public to bash on any kind of creativity that's happening. We should be supporting each other.
Yeah.
And I figured that in that process, I could be a means of support for these singers.
Yeah.
So if you do decide to audition for KTV, know that you are supported.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. I love this conversation. All right, I guess we can just wrap it up by taking it back to the camps that will be taking place. When, where, who can come, does it cost, how much?
As well as the festival.
Yes.
Right. So our Voice Festival runs from July 3rd to the 15th. From July 3rd to 6th, we will be at the Pilates School of Music doing vocal training for children and adults for 4 days. That's from 4 to 7 p.m. After that, we will be in Orange Walk on the 7th, I believe. After that, we go to Dangriga on the Monday, which I believe is the 10th. Dangriga, then Belmopan, and then Santa Elena. And then on the 14th, we have our concert at the Bliss, and then the 15th, we're in Corozal for our final masterclass.
Excellent.
So it's a 2-week-long event.
Packed itinerary.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yes. And that includes the camps as well. Is there a price associated with
The
it?
master classes are $75 a day from 10 to 4, but we are offering special deals for churches that have youth groups or choirs, and schools that have a music program. If they have singers that they want to send, we work a deal out for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. As well as the guitar camp?
The guitar camp is from July 24th to August 4th. It costs $200. It's from 8:30 to 12. We provide snacks, and we will be covering guitar techniques, Creole drumming, and art.
And you have to bring your own guitar.
If you have one, definitely bring your own instrument. But if they don't have one, we try to provide one for them.
Okay, great. Great minds. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, Giselle. And, you know, I'll take it over to our friend one last time and ask you, why do you love playing the guitar?
Because it's relaxing.
It's relaxing. Okay. And that's great for, you know, young minds, you know, while you're taking on school. I imagine you go home and you play your guitar a little bit after school. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We thank you so much for the information, and we look forward to you, Giselle, this KTV season.
Yeah. Looking forward to it too. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. Okay, we're going to take a break, our final break, and when we come back, we wrap things up.
With eCash, bill payment is extremely convenient, and all utility companies accept eCash payments. What's even better? You get to split bills with your roommates, siblings, or whoever you desire. Simply open your eCash app, go to Bill Pay, tap the respective utility company, enter the information, and pay the bill. Then tap the transaction made. Tap Split the bill. Select Evenly. Send the request to who you are splitting the bill with, and get notified when they pay. Talk about making life easy and avoiding confusion. You can split the bill for restaurants, grocery stores, and for any eCash payment you make. To find your next yummy meal, hair treatment, or chill spot, simply open the app and utilize the geolocation service to see nearby businesses that accept eCash. Geolocation and bill payment make life a whole lot easier.
Have you heard about the once daily pill that can help prevent HIV?
Pre-exposure prophylaxis, also known as PrEP, is a once daily prescription medication that helps you lower your chances of contracting HIV. PrEP may not be for everyone, so speak to your healthcare provider to find out if PrEP is right for you.
PrEP does not prevent pregnancy or other sexually transmitted infections, so it's important to use a condom every time you have sex and to get tested regularly.
PrEP. It's something positive to help keep you HIV negative.
You must be HIV negative to qualify for PrEP, so you need to get tested for HIV immediately before and every 3 months while taking the pill.
So what are you waiting for? Talk to your doctor about your risk of HIV and find out if PrEP is right for you.
Make staying safe a habit. Step up, PrEP up.
To partake in the ongoing PrEP pilot project, which ends in December, visit Matron Roberts Polyclinic or the Belize Family Life Association in Belize City.
Smart introduces Real Unlimited Postpaid Plans, providing customers with unlimited talk, unlimited text, and unlimited data. Now that's a real great deal. With Smart Plus, Share 1 and 2, and Enterprise 1 and 2 plans, you can talk as much as you want, text as much as you want, and for the first time ever in Belize, you can enjoy unlimited data with your postpaid plan. So come in and sign up for an unlimited postpaid plan and enjoy limitless possibilities. In addition, other plans such as the Flex Junior, Choice, and Select have been boosted with a lot more talk, text, and data, providing you with the best value for your budget. Be unlimited with Smart. It's time to power your dollar with Smart. Belize's favorite Tuesday night entertainment is back. KTV The Remix Season 5 kicks off with the audition show on Tuesday, June 27th at 8 p.m. Tune in to see who will be your next favorite contestant. Then join us on Tuesday, July 4th at 8 p.m. when KTV The Remix goes live from the Bliss Center for the Performing Arts. Come on out and win fabulous prizes and get a chance to compete in our KTV challenges. KTV The Remix Season 5 is gonna be fun, entertaining, and it's only on 5. Are you looking for low-cost television advertising? Have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you to save valuable time and money. Call us today at 280-0013 or visit us at our offices on Coney Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind-the-scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
All right, welcome back, and we are wrapping up a great morning, a great Monday morning, Isani. I really enjoyed both of the conversations, starting things off with Dr. David Gallo, who is, you know, such a passionate, I'd call him a scientist, but he is so passionate about the ocean and everything below. You know, we were talking about the incident that happened last week with Ocean Gate, the submersible that unfortunately ended with 5 passengers dying, but just the intrigue of the Titanic as well that the public seemed to have. And I mean, that conversation extended for a while, but I think we would have wanted it to go on and on. Would you say?
I think what I was most intrigued by is the wealth of knowledge that David Gallo has in respect of not only the Titanic, but underwater expedition and oceanography and that sort of stuff. I think in similar breath that we blew his mind away with the line of questions, he blew my mind away with the depth of his knowledge and what all he knows in terms of, you know, deep sea exploration and what have you, the science behind it, and not just the science, but, you know, the sheer experience of going where few people have ventured to on Earth.
Yeah.
I think that it kind of rekindled the kid in me that was enamored with all of these discoveries and expeditions.
I won't lie, I
had
had that same feeling because I was doing some research on him over the weekend and I saw him present during a TED Talk, and that was part of the conversation. I mean, not to say that the Titanic conversation wasn't intriguing, but his knowledge of oceanography, as you mentioned, and just really explaining things about, you know, species that we still have not discovered as yet, and about, you know, the water system within the water system where there are lakes and rivers that are actually under the sea. And that was so amazing to me. The volcanoes, the waterfalls, Isani. Watching that TED Talk, we were able to see visuals as well, where there was literally a lake, like an actual structure, like an
it's
actual.
Hard to imagine
yes,
it's
insane. It's insane. There's actual like land and then a lake, and all of that is under the ocean. And for me, that's why I closed off with that question of, is it something that we are too intimidated to explore this part of the world, where, you know, we're so intrigued by astronomy and we're willing to invest all these billions of dollars in what exists outside of Earth, but we have something that we don't understand yet right here, and that's the ocean. And that for me was what I think really I held on to, and I still hold on to, because when we think of climate change and the impacts, we have to have the conversation of the ocean, and how we rely on it and how aquatic life relies on it. So that for me, I still am so stunned by the information that he provided, and I'm really grateful that he also found our questions impactful as well.
I think, again, this is a matter of opinion. While I can respect what he has brought to the table in terms of the conversation regarding exploring the world's waters, I think there's a lot of that's taking place for the right and for the wrong reasons, depending on what you're watching and who you're talking to. Because while, yes, millions, if not billions of dollars have been invested in space exploration, you do have companies that are doing work investigating the world's oceans for minerals, for marine resources, for exploring new species that may not be known to us at this point. For instance, I've always sort of been enamored with the work of James Cameron, from the Titanic in 1997 to the Avatar movies, and the fact that not only is he this renowned film director, but he's also physically involved in the science of exploration and what have you. And so one of the things that piqued my interest when I was, you know, following some of his works and what have you, is that on record, he's one of the few, if not the only person, that has dove to the deepest point in the world's oceans, which is the Mariana Trench, 7 miles below sea level. And the descriptions that he gives in terms of really not being able to see much, because as David Gallo said, you're dealing with various shades of blue the deeper you go. And when you hit the bottom, the sea floor, it's pitch black for the most part. And you're not going to see the kinds of marine life that you would see perhaps at a slightly higher elevation. You're from what I was able to read and understand, they were picking up like bacteria and other, microbial it's not like you're seeing a specific kind of fish or what have you at that depth. It's a totally different thing. And I think those are the things that fascinate me.
Yeah, same.
As a child, I spent a lot of time, reading science books, and so even as an adult, I'll admit a lot of my time is spent watching Nat Geo and all of these other things. So it always piques my interest when we're looking at, science and how invested people are in terms of learning about the space, learning about the water, learning about the terrestrial spaces and all of these things. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that entire conversation was extremely insightful. And I mean, I'm glad that we were able to have that conversation with him. I mean, viewers would know that he's been doing several interviews over the country of the United States with various well-known media houses from CBC to ABC, CNN. A lot, CNN, all over. So we were really grateful that he was willing to give us an interview here in Belize as well. But moving things over, we closed off with a little bit of art, and we were joined by Giselle O'Brien, and she was talking to us about her different camps that are taking place this summer that your kids, adults or children can take part in, as well as a singing festival, a voice festival that they will be having as well. You would know that Giselle O'Brien is no stranger to Channel 5. She's heavily involved in the training of our KTV participants, so we were thankful to have us here with us on set promoting her other work that she is a part of as well. But also in the spirit of KTV, we want to remind you that tomorrow is the official auditions highlight. We'll be highlighting the auditions, and Isane, that's one of my favorite part of KTV, I'll tell you, because you're able to see, persons that really took that risk to go out and share their talent. So I'm really, really looking forward to that, and definitely I know a lot of our loyal KTV fans are also looking forward to it. So we'll be talking about KTV tomorrow on Open Your Eyes. We'll be joined by some of our judges, but also after the newscast tomorrow night, you can also watch the auditions. I'm looking forward to it. And aside from that, the week after, so next week, Tuesday, it's also the first live in the auditorium over at the Bliss Center for the Performing Arts. You can come and watch the show.
Catch it live.
Yeah, catch it live on Channel 5. We are looking forward to it. I am definitely looking forward to that. And I know that all of our loyal fans, just viewers, local and abroad, they're also looking forward to the official premiering of this season's KTV. But that does it for this morning's morning show. We want to thank you guys so much for joining us. We don't have any birthday shout outs for you this morning, but if you are celebrating a birthday, we want to say happy birthday to you, and we hope you have a great day. But if you'd like to also give a birthday shout out, or you can send us an email with questions or concerns, you can catch us at oye@channel5belize.com. You can also check out our Facebook page at Open Your Eyes BZ and Instagram for behind the scenes content at OYE Belize. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And please join us again tomorrow as you open your eyes
to start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
Have a great Monday.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.